Good afternoon. It is 5:17 p.m. on Tuesday, October 14th, 2025. And with a quorum of members present, we are going to be calling the Finance Committee meeting to order. We're going to have a joint finance and economic development session at the conclusion of our finance-only agenda items. So if you're here for the joint session, just sit back and relax and enjoy the finance stuff. Item number one is public comment for matters on the agenda. I've got a couple names, and then we'll open it up to everybody, but I got to read this statement here. The City of Wausau recognizes the value of public comment on local issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on city matters. Please identify yourself by name and state your address. Each statement made by a participant should be limited to 3 minutes. Direct all comments to the chair, not to members, staff, or other participants. People addressing the council shall not disrupt the orderly course of business. The chair values civil discourse and may interrupt, terminate, or prohibit public comment that do not adhere to these rules. Thank you. And first up on public comment I have is Tim White. And these public comment will be for all matters on the agenda, finance and economic development.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Tim White. My address is 309 North 3rd Street, Wausau, right downtown above Chow. Longtime listener, first-time participant in the finance meeting. Appreciate all the work that you do. Just wanted to make a comment on some of the issues at hand that you'll be dealing with, especially building or continuing to add housing in the downtown area. So, from a visitor standpoint, we always say it always starts with a visit. And you've heard me say this before, that, it starts with a visit. And when you create a place that people want to visit, you create a place where people want to live, where people want to work, where people want to invest, and again, where people want to visit. And adding more housing to the downtown area will not only enhance the downtown, it will bring people that will be interested in potentially working and investing as well. And when visitors see a vibrant downtown, I can't tell you how often I have heard people commenting on all the housing that's being put up now. They're like, oh my gosh, this downtown is really going places. So it's a sign also, it's its own marketing sign. So I'm all for anybody that wants to bring more housing downtown for people to enjoy, especially right along the water. Just kind of highlights the urban feel that we have, the rural and urban taste of what Wausau is. And so I'm all for any expansion of housing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up was Liz Broduck.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Liz Wendt, 814 Adams Street, Wausau. I'm here to speak in favor of the redevelopment of 11 Scott Street. So this proposal is a very good investment for the city. It adds mid-market housing, which cannot really exist downtown without some type of public subsidy. There is market rate housing and low-income housing downtown, but this particular project helps fill a gap in the pricing and amenities between those two types of projects. The alternative, which I think is always important to think about, is no investment. And what does that look like? That looks like a deteriorating building in the heart of our downtown. There's really not a way forward without some type of public assistance and public subsidy to make this project happen. So converting this building to residential also aligns better for the shifting market between residential or between the office market, which it currently is, and residential, the need for residential, especially in the heart of our community. And really, to speak about it in the heart of our community, it brings, as Tim was saying earlier, more people into the downtown and keeps it healthy, keeps the downtown healthy with people spending more money in the downtown. And we all know, and it's well documented, that spending money locally helps money stay within the community. So it really is an economic driver, not just for the heart of downtown, but for the region as a whole. So for that reason, or for many of those reasons, all of those reasons, I think that this is a great investment for the city and should move forward, and I hope that you vote in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to give public comment at this time?
Good evening. My name is Dave Ekman, President and CEO of the Greater Wausau Chamber of Commerce. Been in front of this committee many times before talking about the importance of housing in Wausau. You look around the community, where we're at today and where we started about 4 years ago. We have the West Side Commons going on, we have the Foundry on 3rd, and now the project down along Grand Avenue. And now we have another opportunity for 52 units right downtown, mid-market housing. The lock redevelopment is going to move that building into a new age. What it was is no longer not feasible. What the lock redevelopment will do is reinvent that building, that pristine building, right there on First and Scott, overlooking the river. That will bring new life to it. Strongly urge you to move this project forward. It's good for this community. We need more housing units. The mid-market is something that we're missing. And so that is my robust support for this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to give public comment? Okay, we're going to move on to item number 2 on the... What?
Thank you for joining. We'll let the people in the meeting know that you're here.
Oh, okay. Item number 2 on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meetings. That's September 9th, 2025, and September 23, 2025. I'll entertain a motion.
Move
It
to-
move, oh, go for it.
I'll move to roof.
Motion from Henke, second from Watson.
Yeah,
Any
second.
discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries. Item number 3, discussion and possible action approving budget modification for an amendment with GEI Consultants for environmental consulting services for the former Wausau Business Incubator site at 1300 Cleveland Avenue, WDNR BRRTS 02-37-587081. And we've got Eric here, if anybody's got any questions. Otherwise, this is just for, I believe, for additional testing and reporting.
Yeah, so the site investigation was completed, concurred with the DNR, so this is the next step. We're about 5 years into this, so the next step is we're going to have the consultant come give a presentation to the council on November 11th, and then move ahead with the remedial action options report. Yeah.
Okay, so additional reporting, I think the fiscal impact on that is $17,500.
Correct.
Any discussion? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve.
Okay, motion from Watson. Second.
I'll second. I
From Henke?
got a question.
Okay, discussion?
Do we know what fund this is coming out of? Or
Yeah, the environmental fund.
environmental fund?
Environmental
Yep, okay.
Yep.
That's what I figured. All right, thank you.
All right, so, not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that carries.
Thank you.
Item number 4, discussion and possible action to enter into a first addendum of a service agreement between City of Wausau and Marathon County Health Department for implementation of the Lead Hazard Reduction Capacity Building Grant. And we have Tammy Stratz here that can give us some more information on this.
Hi, thank you. This is more or less a housekeeping item. As you'll remember, back in April, we entered into a agreement with the Marathon County Health Department for the lead capacity grant. They are doing the yeoman's work of getting out there, educating the community, and doing the necessary things for this grant. In our service agreement with them, the initial one, it indicated who would be working on the grant from the health department and what dollar amount those salaries were. Well, you know, this is a 3-year memorandum or agreement. Salaries change, people come and go, so we wanted to eliminate saying that we're paying them X amount of dollars because it changes. And also in the initial agreement. It didn't talk about the other items, like printing charges. We are doing brochures and information in multi-languages, and it didn't discuss who was responsible for that. In the initial agreement, we were paying the health department for their staff. 75% of their time needs to go towards the working of this grant. So they need to be paid for this, but we did not indicate the other items, which was above and beyond that amount. So this agreement just spells out who is responsible for those items. I highlighted the items in, so it's just that one section. So hopefully it makes sense to you. We're not looking at changing the dollar amount that they are requesting. They're not asking to do less work. I think they're doing more work than they anticipated. But there's plenty of room in the grant at this point. We're not over budget by any means. And Kate Floric is here if you have any specific questions
Okay.
for the health department.
And all of this is, all of these expenses are paid out of the grant. So
Correct.
This is not out of,
Cor-
not out
correct.
of the city's general fund.
Correct.
Any questions?
I'll move to approve the amendment.
Okay. I got a motion from Hinkie. Second?
Second.
Second from Watson. Discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that carries. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 5, discussion and possible action approving budget modification and sole source purchase request to retain Miller Communication for referendum services. We are going to pull that from the agenda until we have a further discussion with a committee of the whole. Number 6, presentation and discussion from CLA, Clifton Larson Allen, on the 2024 financial audit. And we have representatives here from CLA to walk us through the presentation. So good evening, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is John Troutman, principal for Clifton Larson Allen, your external auditor. This is Stuart Randall, audit manager, also on the audit team. So again, the point of tonight is really just to go through a high level of the results of the audit, a little bit of background of what the audit is. We'll talk a little bit about some financial aspects of the audit, of where you ended the year 2024, and then talk about a little bit of what's coming up as far as some standards and some concerns coming up that you may have. So with that, let's talk a little bit about the audit scope. So if you can go to the next slide. Really, there's two main opinions that we issue. One is the report on your organization's financial statement. That's the audit opinion. That's ultimately what concludes your city's financial statement audit. And then there's the report on internal control over compliance with major programs. That's the federal and state single audit portion of your annual audit. So again, two different points to that main audit opinions. Then we issue really an internal control or management letter where we take the time to kind of point out best practices, things that you need to work on, some notations, maybe some things coming up that you want to take note at as a city. And then we do have a required governance communication letter, and that's a formal letter, annual letter that kind of summarizes all the responsibilities of the audit and also the city itself. So next slide, please. Let's dig in a little bit on the audit opinions. That's really the result of the audit. That's the final step of the audit is we issue opinions. The city achieved an unmodified opinion. That's a clean opinion. We made no modifications to that opinion, which effectively means really the city's financial statements that are contained in the annual financial report are free from material modifications, free from material issues. And that's what our opinion concludes at. The federal and state awards is also unmodified, meaning that the federal and state grants that are reported and tested had no material modifications as well. So again, your internal control that operates, again, 365 days a year, really running through all the transactions and all the flows of the departments and everything through the finance department, really set out to achieve that. So again, that means your financial reporting through your accounting software and your reporting that you achieve through council can be relied on. So the rest of the audit results really is the financial statement section and the federal and state award section with any findings. So we had one material weakness, which was adjustments to city's financial records. That's related to GASB 101, which I'll get to in a second. Essentially, we made a material adjustment to your financial statements in the year, thereby requiring a finding. I'll get to that a little bit as far as what that is. Federal and state awards, we had no material weaknesses noted in any federal and state awards and anything that we tested. We did have one significant deficiency related to suspension and debarment. That's a requirement on some federal grants, most federal grants, basically checking and then keeping that documentation on whether the vendor you're using is suspended and debarred. There was no issue with that. You didn't have any issues with any vendor you used, but that internal control documentation needed to be kept. Again, we're working with the city on that to effectively shore up that communication, and I believe that has already been done. Next slide, please. So we kind of shift into the management letter, and again, the management letter is a little bit of a document where we get to kind of show best practices, things that we noted during the audit process. Again, we look at a lot of data, a lot of different departmental data throughout the whole city, and really we get to now kind of say, okay, what could you do better? What could you change? At least consider. One of the things is the year-end close procedure. And again, this and the next one, the employee turnover, which is an industry trend we're kind of pointing out, really work hand in hand with that finding. And they're kind of all wrapped in together. And we really, recommend the city kind of continue to work on the year-end close. You've had great strides in that, improving that. But again, it's like a spectrum. You can keep going to try to increase those procedures and the timeliness of those procedures, because again, the year-end procedures, the closing procedures, reconciliation procedures, getting ready for an audit, getting ready to close the year, really tie into that audit timing. And when you get that perfected and get that to a certain level, then everything happens quicker, right? The audit is quicker, the audit gets issued quicker, you're ready for the next budget season quicker. So again, you're working on that, you're doing a good job working through that over the last 3-4 years, and we hope that you continue to do that. Industry trends, again, we're just pointing out that what we're seeing in the industry, we audit a lot of municipalities across the state and the country, and we're seeing a lot of turnover, and that turnover is certainly, you've seen it in the last 5-6 years and beyond. Other communities your size and larger and smaller than you are seeing it on a daily basis. And what it's doing is it's creating the requirements that we're talking about here. It's creating complexity, it's creating challenges for the cities. And again, it makes it more important to have that procedure list, that control list really honed in on and making sure you're on top of that. So again, we're here to assist in that if needed, so we are a resource. The last item that we noted in the management letter is the 2025 single audit changes coming up in this next year's audit now that we're almost done with here, the calendar year 2025. There is a couple changes to the single audit, one of which is the threshold. The threshold is now going from $750,000 of federal expenditures to $1 million. And then also there is some changes to some fixed asset, capital asset recommendations. So again, we encourage you to take a look at those and either adopt the federal recommendations, or you can go beyond that, or different from that, but then we are required to test for those. So take a look at that stuff. We're here to help you through that process. That's obviously next year as we navigate into that. Next slide, please. GASB 101. So this financial statement that we opined on for 2024 includes GASB number 101, compensated absences. And what GASB basically did, and if you remember in the last 6 or 7 years, they've been really honing in on liabilities. So we've got a long list of liability GASB pronouncements, standards that relate to showing liabilities on your financial statements. This is the last one or the latest one, and this is related to compensated absences. Effective date, of course, is December 31, 2024. Any financial statement dated that date. And what it really did is it reevaluated the rules and took a look at all the leave that municipalities have. And what it did is it broke it down and really kind of wrote the rules and said, if there is a carryover benefit, basically accumulated time for whatever reason, you really have to see if it meets the criteria of being a liability. And that's more likely than not to be paid out or more likely than not to be used. And that's a new rule that used to be a little bit different prior to 2024, hadn't changed in probably 20 some years. So this is the kind of a simplification of those rules. Well, what that did is it changed some of the accumulated balances that you had. And that was one of the adjustments we had to make to the beginning balance, kind of changing some of the vacation amounts there. So going forward, again, these are going to be things like sick leave, vacation, comp time, parental leave, military leave, and things like that. You already had a really good process of keeping track of that. And now from this point on, every year, you'll have that rule under the GASB 101. So, any questions on that before we conclude in the financial numbers? Just a quick snapshot of some of the financial numbers. And I'm going to turn it over to Stuart, but I want to pause there for any questions on any of that.
I got one question.
Absolutely.
Just for people that are, I used to remember what it is, but GASB, G-A-S-B, what does that stand for again? I know that's an acronym.
Absolutely. Government Accounting Standards Board. That's the standard setter that sets the rules that you follow, and we have to follow as well. So,
Thank you.
You bet.
Any other
Great
questions from the committee? Okay.
I will turn it over to Stuart.
Okay. So we're auditors, we're accountants, we're numbers people. So what would be a presentation from us if we didn't include some numbers? So we just have 3 graphs that we want to talk to that kind of are a 5-year history of select financial numbers pulled from the financial statements. Obviously, if you've taken the time to review the 100-plus page document, there's a lot of numbers in there, and we're more than happy to answer any questions on them, but let's face it gets a bit dense at times. So let's go forward 2 slides if we could. So this is essentially a 5-year history of what all of your governmental funds ending fund balance is, or was in some cases. Your fund balance is essentially your reserves. So looking at this graph, you can see the different segments of your governmental funds. Your special revenue funds primarily consist of your various grant funds and your housing loan funds. The dark blue at the top is your general fund, which is your primary operating fund, and then the olive-ish green at the bottom is your capital projects. That's made up of your TIDs and your other capital improvements funds. As you can see, you're relatively consistent throughout the years. Over the last 5 years, you have added about $5 million to your overall total governmental fund balance, which is a good trend. We can talk about this very shortly, but once you start going down in your fund balance from year to year, it gets very hard to halt that decline. So any type of growth, any type of consistency is a good sign of your overall financial health. And the next slide, this is going to specifically dive into your general fund, that primary operating fund of the city. Going back to 2020, that balance was about $14.6 million between the 3 different categories of non-spendable, committed, and unassigned. At the end of 2024, that increased to $17.2 million. So once again, that's an increase of close to $3 million, showing that growth over time. In terms of the overall health of the fund balance, you as a city have a minimum fund balance saying you want 16.67% of your annual expenditures as your unassigned fund balance. Based on the 2024 numbers, that threshold's right around $7 million. That graph is showing about $14.4 million. So you are in compliance with your overall policy. Even at a more conservative threshold of 20 to 25% of your annual expenditures, you'd still be looking at $8.5 million would be a recommended value of your unassigned fund balance. So in terms of reserves, you are healthy. Now, that does not necessarily help you in funding your current year expenditures, because it's not always best practice to fund current year operating expenditures from fund balance. But once, by not having to worry about building that fund balance, increasing that fund balance, it does give you some leverage in terms of current year operations and in terms of responding to emergency expenditures. So those last 2 graphs were based on your governmental funds, but we wouldn't be capturing the entire city if we didn't look at your enterprise funds as well. So this is essentially we have different lines for your water, wastewater, and then your non-major. The non-major fund line consists of your transit, your parking, and your airport enterprise funds. This essentially represents how much your net position, different term for your equity and your reserves for those funds, changed overall in each year. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but your water skyrocketed in 2024. It had consistently been around 2 million, 3 million, but there was that increase of 11.8 million for 2024. Well, that reflects the fact that in 2024, the city did receive significant grant funding to help fund for capital improvements to your water treatment facility. There's about $1.6 million in terms of principal forgiveness from your Safe Drinking Fund loan, in addition to some loan financing through that program. About $5 million in a water infrastructure grant, also for the water treatment facility, and about $1 million for water meters. So in total, that's about $8 million, and that $1 million was a transfer from your general fund for the water meters. That's about $8 million of capital one-time transactions, which would actually, factor that out, and your overall increase is much closer to the historical $3 to $4 million overall increase. But we didn't. There's a lot of different types of operating numbers that we could have pulled out. If we didn't factor those in, given the uniqueness of what happened in 2024 in terms of all those fundings, we felt it was a little bit deceptive to at least show that through. But overall, you are generating returns in those utilities, which are needed to pay for future capital improvements and the financing associated with those. Any questions on my little foray into the numbers? Other than that, if next, and pretty much the last thing we want to talk about is, similar, looking ahead. There's always the future. Audits are historically, looking into the past, but we want to prep you for 2025 and 2026. So things that, we want the city to be aware of is, this past summer, there was the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the big tax bill that the federal government passed during the year. Luckily, there are limited effects for municipal governments, just in terms of, headaches for city staff to implement. But the two big ones that are going to affect you, which we've already coordinated with city personnel on, but we're also still waiting on a little bit more information from the federal government, is ensuring that premium pay on overtime gets adequately reported to your employees during the year-end payroll tax process. And then there's also going to be a change in the 1099 reporting threshold in 2026, which is going to reduce some of the administrative burden of the city because that threshold is being increased. Not going to go into too much detail with the upcoming GASB standards because for once, we don't have any significant ones in effect for 2025. Both of those are in effect for 2026. So similar to how we implemented GASB 101 in 2024, well, we're going to be looking at 103 and 104 in 2026. They're going to change some of the reporting in the financial statements, but it's not really going to change the day-to-day accounting for the city. So we'll update you guys a little bit more on those next year in terms of the effect on the reporting mechanism. And then finally, the American Rescue Plan Act, that's the big ARPA fund, COVID funding that the city received. You had until 12/31/2024 to obligate all of the funds, and you have until the end of 2026 to spend it. We do know that the DOR was looking closely at the obligation amounts during 2024, so we can presume that they are going to be looking closely to make sure all the funds are expended by 2026. So at the end of 24, you had about $4.5 million unspent. So that is the city's task to spend that money by 2026. Otherwise, you might get a call from the DOR. Yeah. The government. Yes. So finally, the next slide just is a link if you want to follow it to our website. A lot of good information out there in terms of articles, webinars, not just about governments, but also if you have questions about, the tax or other entities. A lot of information about that tax bill out there that is a good resource for everyone. But other than that, we're here for questions and more comments from John.
Just in closing, again, a lot to take in, but if you're looking at some of this stuff, if you're wondering about the audit or anything in the financial statements throughout the year, and full council as well, I mean, if they have any questions, we're a resource. We're an educational resource as well to try to help you through the process of an audit and understand your financial statements. Obviously, the city does a great job in keeping you up to date on a monthly basis, but if there's any big picture things that you want us to look at or want some questions answered, certainly reach out. So we are a resource. So just close out on that.
Okay, thank you. Committee, any questions? Marianne, I think you had something to say.
I was just, a couple of things I was going to add, that when we were looking at the fund balance and the designation, one of the reasons we've seen a really big improvement in our unassigned fund balance is, with the closing of TID 6, we've seen some, if you remember with our tax increment districts, oftentimes we do our capital projects in the beginning and then that increment builds up. So we start out with these deficits. And basically, the general fund finances those deficits for those districts. And so we have to basically reserve our reserves because of that deficit in another fund. So we've seen some huge improvements in performance between TID 3, TID 6. So, that has really helped. So I was going to mention that. I was also going to mention that right now, what we have left to spend of ARPA dollars is about 1.8 million. So we are making a big dent on that, and I have no concerns about, our ability to spend those funds on a timely basis. And then finally, Finance has authorized continuing the contract with CLA for the years 22, 23, because we were in the middle of the huge ERP implementation, and we just, that was such a struggle, that implementation, and we just didn't feel like we could take on the additional burden of new auditors, and that, I think, was a wise decision for the city and for us to have someone who already knew us to be able to, work through all of our rough patches during that implementation, but we are working on an RFP, so we'll be sending that out probably this week. Another 5-year contract, which was what we did last time, and so we'll be bringing that back to Finance in November. So
All right.
that really is.
Anything else?
But I think, I think the auditors did a good job explaining that we are in a good position. But, we do have TID 12 and, that good fund balance really, as Stuart said, is really important to us as an organization. It really helps us with our Moody's ratings to keep our interest payments as low as possible. So,
It's kind of our safety cushion.
yes.
All right.
And it's given us the opportunities to, give them, $1 million to the water utility for new meters. So we have, and we've transferred money to motor pool on occasion. So, some one-time transfers that really will make a difference to us as an organization. It's not unfunded, but you don't want to rely on that on a regular basis.
Alder Watson.
So I just had a question about you said the non-major. I'm looking at the enterprise fund change in that position. The non-major you said is like transit, airport. So it's sort
And
of
parking.
Oh, and parking. So
Yep.
it sort of looks like it oscillates between positive and negative. In the last couple of years, it's been negative. Is there, I guess, a why? I don't know.
So one of the primary differences in the accounting methodology for your enterprise funds, and this is getting a little bit into accounting speak, so please interrupt me if I go too far, is the treatment of capital assets is a little bit different in terms of how those enterprise funds are reported. So essentially there is depreciation on all of those assets recorded within these funds, and from an operating perspective, from a grant perspective, they can have returns in there, but then it's the depreciation that is turning it over all into the overall decrease in net position. Some of those years that saw increases was some of the years that you received capital contributions within the transit fund for some of the bus purchases, but a lot of I shouldn't say, the transit fund overall is very heavily reliant on federal and state transit funding, and with some of that fluctuations with COVID funding in 21, 22, that saw a better year in those years too.
Okay. Thank you.
So like in transit, we've received over the years the VW settlement funding.
Yep.
So I suppose, I don't know for sure, but like in '22, we probably received a bunch of transit buses, and that would have affected the balance on a positive way, and then we depreciate them out and
Exactly.
things go
And
downhill.
if I'm remembering correct, you're in the process of getting some more buses as well.
Yes, another batch are supposed to be coming in '25
Yep. So you'll see that increase again in 25.
And does the,
or
like,
'26.
do our fire and police, like rolling stock and stuff go into that, like,
Motor pool.
And motor
So
pool.
motor pool is considered an internal service fund, not an enterprise fund. A little bit, their accounting is done the same way, but they're a different classification in government world because they're providing services like an enterprise fund is providing services to an exterior customer. So water and sewer, we're providing services to all of our residents and businesses. An internal service fund is providing services to internal customers. So that's why motor pool would be an internal service versus an external or versus an enterprise fund. So that's really the accounting classification difference. But yes, motor pool is where we do our police, fire, and DPW, and it also records depreciation, which we know our rates are not sufficient to recover depreciation.
okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
For the presentation this evening. I really appreciate it, so. And back to my agenda here. Item number 7, budget discussions and actions regarding recommending a 2026 budget, including setting the 2026 fee schedule. We're going to pull that item. We concluded budget discussions yesterday in our special budget session, so we do not need to.
I mean, the dates.
Yeah, we don't need that. So at this point, I will welcome the Economic Development Committee to join us so that the chair can call the joint session together.
We need a little levity, right?
Sit up here. I'll slide over.
Don't have my little booster, but that's okay.
Oh,
Oh.
hey.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Okay.
So I need to call.
You need to call it to order, yeah.
Okay. So then, with a quorum present, I will call the Economic Development meeting to order.
And first item on the agenda is presentation and discussion for redevelopment of Riverside Place, 11 Scott Street, in the city of Wausau by 11 Scott Street LLC.
Well, thank you very much for having us tonight. I'm Mark Craig.
Raleigh Lockery.
And, for 30 years, I've been coming to the city council meetings and advocating for positive changes for our community. And, tonight I'm representing Lockery Development, and it might take me a little while to get used to that, having joined the Lockery team the last 2 weeks. Many of you know that Raleigh just recently purchased a large portfolio in downtown Wausau and properties that I've been managing for the last 25 years, and Washington Square being one of those properties. And so not only tonight did I want to talk about 11 Scott Street, but I want to give you a little background that Raleigh's looking to do other improvements besides just the building we're talking about tonight. Like Washington Square, we just came before the Historic Commission this last week and got approval to add some exterior improvements, replacing the awnings and creating a nice architectural band around a building that really needed this work for some time. And in addition to that, adding 8 new apartments in the 300 block of 3rd Street above the storefronts that Compass wanted to do for years but didn't get done, and now we have that opportunity to do that working with Lockery. and also another apartment above Washington Square on the fourth floor. So tremendous investments that will not need assistance, but 11 Scott Street's a difficult property. It's a great opportunity, but it's 100,000 square feet of office space, and we know office space is difficult to lease. I've been trying to lease City Square for the last 15 years, and to this day, it's at 80% occupied. It's really a challenge to find office tenants to move into large spaces in the downtown market. So 11 Scott Street is a 4-story building, 24,000 square feet per floor, and we're looking to redevelop and convert office use to residential use on the top 2 floors. So that would add 52 residential units. And we consider that missing segment of the market, that middle market. It's not Foundry on Third rates or River Life rates, and it's certainly not low to moderate income housing. The other thing people may not know is that Lockheed Development is doing workforce development housing with Kobe and Kobe and adding how many units?
102 units we're adding right now, which will all come on the market here by early next spring, which we're excited about that because it'll be great for the whole community.
Yeah. And what I love about working with Raleigh is he sees the broader vision of the greater Wausau area. I've been advocating for the central business district for a long time, but Raleigh sees really the big picture of what needs to be done in our community. But this project, 11 Scott Street, is a challenging one. I know a few years ago he looked at a $3 million ask from the city, and recently we talked more about 1.85. And in the recent discussions we had with community development and Ellers, we looked at just the residential component of River Life, or Riverside Place, is 7.8 million. The total package is about 10.6 million if we include the office portion of it. And so the ask tonight is 950,000, which is really the minimum amount to move this project forward. We looked at the market overall and what the rental rates are in the market. They did a nice analysis of really all the buildings that are out there and looking at what's missing and what can be done in this property that does not have maybe all the amenities that Foundry on Third would have or River Life would have. But, you know, this is a really a great need, as you heard from some of the speakers tonight, to add more housing, and there cannot be enough housing added in this market right now. To do this project, we need your help.
Yeah, we really feel we can fill that need, that middle niche need, which is, as we know, is not in the downtown right now. Like Mark explained, to the different products that are there. So this really would fill part of that gap, and we'd hope to do more in the future. We even with the properties we just purchased from the Noel family, we've done a great job over 25 years with Mark's leadership. We're going to add 9 units right now, but our true feeling is there as, because again, talking about the office market, it's not a good market. And as we have office tenants roll there, we want to convert more units there. So we want to keep adding. The perfect world will end up with 20, 30, 40 units that would be encompassed within those buildings. Again, those we will not need to ask for money because we have the tenants there, the property's cash flowing, that's a different scenario. But 11 Scott, it's a large vacant building, and we truly need your help. And in the location, it's a great asset for the downtown. Being on the river, it's a beautiful building. It had 2 tenants in it for all these years. Just 2 tenants. It's always it was like that pristine, perfect building with Whiffling United Health in there for all. So we have the opportunity for our community to really take that and bring it back with a new life, and we're excited about it.
The other thing with the 11 Scott Street, it comes with 450 parking stalls now, I believe is the agreement.
Correct.
And I think we talked with Randy about possibly modifying that so there'd be less obligated to that building, maybe to the tune of 150, I think is what we discussed last. So we wanted to have a conversation with you tonight, answer any questions you might have, but it's really a project that is needed, and it's the right project at the right time, because Foundry on Third is going to take probably 18, 24 months to ramp up to get occupied. My understanding is they have about 30 committed now as they open up in the first part of November. And this project, if we get started this winter and this spring, it's going to take 12 to 18 months to get those 52 units added. Mm-hmm. So it's perfect timing to bring in that missing middle segment of this market for our housing.
And as you all know, there's a lot going on downtown, and we all want to see a lot more going. working on downtown. And it's critical just to get more people living. Any downtown that does well, it's critical, either have people living, condominiums, or hotels. That's the only way a downtown can be successful. If you even look at Chicago, if you went and talked to them, it's the only way, or even a large city, it cannot happen unless you have the people already there. And then when the people are already there, then it attracts people from outside to come down, because there's more energy, there's more people walking, there's more people, more things happening, and that's when it really flourishes. And thanks to all of you and Mark and all the other people, nothing we've been involved, but the downtown is really headed in that way, and we just want to keep it moving that way.
I think it's the one thing Eau Claire did really well. By adding the housing that they did, at the time that they did, it really took their downtown to another level, and we're poised to be there if we can just take these next few steps to get there. Do we have any questions?
Committee, any questions? No.
So that would be me, right? Or does it matter? Oh, Alder Neal.
Thank you. Did I hear correctly that you said the top 2 floors would be for residential?
Correct.
Okay. And what would happen to the third, or the other 2?
We're talking to some office tenants now. We're hoping to fill that 24,000 square feet on the second floor with office tenants. There's a little movement going on in the community right now, and we're hoping. We don't know that it's going to happen for certain, and you never know until the deal is done. But we have a few tenants right now looking that could occupy 12 to 18,000 square feet of that 24. Regis was a development that was done just recently on the first floor, about 8,200 square feet, $700,000 investment by Lockery. But it's a co-working space that really hasn't caught on yet in this market. So it's a long-term gain in terms of that investment. So the payback is a very long-term.
Yeah, the first, second floor are going to be, they're not easy. Let's put it that way. So it's just a matter, even the co-working space is going to take time to fill it up.
Yeah.
The office rentals, as we get them, they're not going to be high rents. But again, but there's a need. We want to kind of fill that whole need. We feel the mixed use of the building would be ideal with the activity. That's what we're trying for.
Yeah.
If for some reason that didn't happen, we'd go back and try to put to your point, is to put another floor apartments in at some point in time if it didn't work. But that's the way we're trying to address it
The
right
intent
now.
right now is office
It's just
and
the
mixed use.
conversion is so expensive with apartments. So that's why the mix thing kind of halfway seemed to work holistically with the help from the city. So that's why we're doing it this way for this time.
Alder Watson?
So there wasn't much in the packet about it. So I was curious, so you said 52 units, right? Are they going to be a mix of 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom? What are you sort of thinking about, or is that way farther down the road in planning?
No, there's 41 bedrooms, 10 2-bedrooms, and 2 3-bedrooms.
So most
So
are
52
1 bedroom.
units total.
Okay, so mostly 1 bedrooms, like
Yeah,
you said,
mostly
40
one
some.
bedrooms,
Okay. Cool. That was my question.
And that's really market-driven right now, because that's what we're seeing the need for. And again, we're trying to really hit that missing middle to a price point that's very affordable. In general, people we're finding, we have other properties throughout the market, so we are experienced with the community in Wausau, and we're just seeing a lot of people, if they can, they want to live by themselves, they're single. So what used to be that people would pair up more, and that could change the future, but right now, that's the way it is, so.
But we're looking at single family, or 1 person, not like a family unit necessarily, or like a couple, right? Or sort of more of those
Yeah.
single bedroom ones.
Yeah, we'd have 12 units that we could with multiple bedrooms that we could at least either 2 families. And there are the 2 3-bedroom units also.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Anything else? Otherwise, we are agendized for closed session, and I think Alder Watson?
So to keep them at that mid-rate, are you applying for any state or federal aid as well, or is it just, you're just going to try to, with this supplement, try to keep it in that range?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is kind of a mission of our company to do it more of this type of thing that we're doing, not just this project, because we just holistically feel that's the missing area in most markets, is the middle space now, because a lot of communities have had the higher end buildings used, the low income, there's the programs available, but there's this huge group of people in the middle, and they really have a hard time finding some place to live they really want to live at. And we want to do more projects like this throughout our community to embrace that.
And then just to make a point to that, then that means that, if there were light tech credits or something like that used, it wouldn't be fully assessed in our taxable, our taxing district, right?
That's my understanding. I think that you would want to talk to Rick Rubel about that. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, that's correct. If they're not using tax credits, it's still, it doesn't have the same effect.
Right. So because they're not using tax credits, the whole thing would be available for, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I think I follow what you're saying. It doesn't have the same, so like when we had West Side Commons, they're 700 grand and their assessed value is limited based on income.
Yeah, there you go.
It doesn't have the same effect.
Okay, thank you.
So that would be the full assessed value of the building when it is complete. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Could you just repeat one more time the mix that you said of how many,
sure.
one bedroom? Just for,
No, it's 41 bedrooms.
Oh.
Excuse me, it's 41 bedrooms, 10 two-bedrooms, and 2 three-bedrooms.
okay, thank you.
Sorry, yeah.
And I know the missing middle is something that we've been talking about for years, and it is a big chunk that is vacant, unavailable in our market. So I know you see online, people talk about, we got to convert these commercial buildings to apartments. Now we've got the opportunity to do it. So, yeah, Alder Watson.
Just one last silly question, I guess. So I know when certain locations have been converted, and this is already sort of looking like an office. I didn't know if you had an idea of how you were going to convert them, or because with the school, you sort of are living in a school, so you got the chalkboard. Is it going to be? I don't know. I guess what's your plan for that redevelopment?
It will feel like a standard apartment building was done. We'll use the same finishes we've done in our other projects. Like even we were involved with the Banter Wausau project. We've done other ones, but it would have that same type of feel and same type of finishes in it.
Cool. Thank you.
There are 3 elevators in this building. We have talked about maybe dedicating one of the elevators to the residential segment of the.
Yeah, we're blessed with 3 elevators. Actually, that probably be the right thing to do, and we could keep it separate, have a separate elevator. Yeah. And you have the attached parking. It's not, again, we're not like the Foundry building. We have underground parking, so we're not going to be able to charge the rents there. But at least you have the covered parking where you can walk and get to your unit. So it's just, again, it falls in that mid range, which is really a lot of people are looking for that. A lot of new people want to move into the area. I mean, even a lot of your downtown employers would like to have that for new people they're hiring for a place to live. It just and it's in the again, the great thing, it's on the water. It's such a beautiful property. The backyard there spills out in the water. It's a great place for people to live.
And speaking of the Wausau Metropolitan Housing Study, I mean, it did mention the middle as being sort of overlooked because there's, they don't have a lot of opportunity. The higher income earners are sort of keeping and holding on to those because they don't have a lot of other options. So it's really cool to add this to our portfolio in that downtown area.
Alder Neal.
Thank you. Just a quick, I was having a thought about architectural amenities. You look at River Life, you look at the Foundry. I mean, they were built with balconies, which I think is very desirable for anybody that wants to be, upper level, apartment. My son is in one in downtown Madison, and it's got that, overlooking the Capitol. Any thought to? I know it's early days, but any thought to either? I don't know if cantilevered external balconies are an option, or recessed, balconies are an option. It just seems to me that could help with the saleability of the apartments.
I agree with you 100%. We haven't looked at that. I'm a big fan of that, but it's too expensive to do in the building. So structurally, the way it's been, it's very challenging, and it would drive us we'd be against, need to ask the city for more money and have higher rents. So again, we've had to kind of massage this product to get where it'll work. So I think, it'll be nice, clean, safe, livable space, all new, good finishes. So I think, they will, I believe they will rent. But I fully agree with what you're saying, though. I'm a believer in outdoor space, and I would love to be doing it. But again, we're trying to fill this need in the market.
Do you think there's any option for recessed balconies rather than the expense of building out?
Well, you lose square footage in the building, and you have the challenges of water leakage when you go in, when you bring it in.
Yeah.
So again, I've owned some buildings like that, and they've become very challenging at times.
Okay.
Unless everything is done just perfect, it becomes a nightmare. So
All right, thanks.
Unfortunately, I've done this too long.
Well, there's always the roof.
Yeah, there's always the roof. Exactly, exactly. But yeah, love your ideas. So.
I know that we've got a little bit of time limitations with Ellers in the closed session, so we're going to move on to item number 2. Discussion and possible action on term sheet for redevelopment.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks
Thank
to
you
all
so
of you
much.
very
Yes.
Really appreciate it.
Discussion and possible action on term sheet for redevelopment of Riverside Place, 11 Scott Street by 11 Scott Street LLC. And I don't think there's anything to discuss in open, so I will entertain, from the finance side, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I'll move that we go into closed session pursuant to Chapter 19.85, Sub 1, Sub E of the Wisconsin statutes for deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session in regards to purposes of negotiating a term sheet for development project for Riverside Place, 11 Scott Street by 11 Scott Street LLC.
Motion by Henke, second.
I would second that.
Second by Watson. This requires a roll call vote. Watson?
Aye.
Henke?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Finance will go into closed session.
We don't have to read it again, right? So I'm just looking for a motion to go into closed session for the Economic Development Committee. Motion by Neal, second by Henke. Again,
Does it have to be read?
I don't think so,
Okay.
No,
no.
it doesn't.
But the,
Roll call.
roll call. Recall, I was going to say, roll call vote. So, Henke,
Aye.
I'm blanking right now. What's that? So Watson, sorry.
Neal.
Oh, you're not. That's right. It's just you.
Neal.
Okay, Neal
Aye.
and I. Okay, so we will move into closed session.